Asepsis of the instrument. In any case, the instrument introduced must be aseptic. By this, we mean that the whole instrument must be rendered aseptic. Footnote: the flaming of a metal instrument whereby the beak and shaft are sterilized, but the dirty handle remains uncleansed, would be perfectly permissible were it not a dangerous habit to permit the least relaxation of asepsis. Moreover, the convenience of flaming compared to boiling is quite imaginary, and must so remain except for its contact with the physician's hands, which, as already stated, should not touch its terminal 3 inches. This asepsis implies 4 conditions. 1. Aseptic lubrication. 2. Antisepsis immediately after using. 3. Aseptic preservation. 4. Antisepsis before using. Lubrication. The lubricant employed for urethral instruments should be soluble in water. Oily lubricants such as Vaseline or olive oil may be perfectly sterilized by boiling, but they can only be removed from the instrument with great difficulty, if at all. Hence, an instrument covered by an oily lubricant is much more difficult to re-sterilize than one which is mechanically clean. Alboran has shown that a clean catheter may be sterilized by boiling for 10 minutes, while an oily catheter must be boiled half an hour. Among the substances in common use as lubricants may be mentioned glycerin and boroglyceride. Guillain uses a mixture of equal parts of water, glycerin, and soap powder. Various combinations of Iceland moss, sterilized in formalin, are sold under different trade names. But the best lubricant I know has the following formula, modified by Dr. E. Wood Ruggles. Dissolve 1 centimeter of oxycyanide of mercury in 200 cc's of hot sterile water. Add 35 cc's of glycerin and water, enough to make 350 cc's. Let this mixture cool. Then add 10 to 15 grams of powdered gum tragacanth. Let this stand until it becomes a homogeneous mass, a process which takes several days, but may be hastened by occasional stirring to break up the lumps. The amount of tragacanth employed depends upon the consistence of this substance, which varies considerably. This lubricant may be put up in sterile paint tubes. Its quality depends upon the employment of precisely the right amount of tragacanth. The instrument. The practice of asepsis for urethral instruments is approximately that of general surgery and requires that, 1, the instrument should be constructed as to be readily cleansed. It should be as free as possible from joints, crannies, etc. It should be in good condition, free from rust or cracks. 2, it should be sterilized by boiling. Strong, almost saturated, sodium chloride solution is less destructive than plain water. 3, it should be washed clean and sterilized immediately after using, kept sterile if possible, and re-sterilized immediately before using. 4, instruments for use in pus cases should be kept entirely distinct from those for use upon clean cases. Unfortunately, the one instrument that is the least subject to any of these rules, viz. The cystoscope, is the very instrument that preeminently requires sterilization. The special measures required for sterilization of cystoscopes are, therefore, considered elsewhere. Page 51. All other instruments should be subjected to the following. 1. Soap and water wash, inside and out, immediately after using. Then rinse in water and boil for at least 15 minutes in strong salt solution. 2. Keep the instruments in an instrument case, the interior of which is kept at least relatively clean by formalin, trioxymethylene, pastilles, or a formalin lamp. 3. Unless the instrument has been recently used and its asepsis assured, always re-sterilize by boiling for 15 minutes immediately before using. 4. Use a separate set of catheters, at least for gonorrheal cases. The special variations and precautions in the technique of sterilization required by various instruments are the following. Dilators and other complex instruments. Dilators, urethrotomes, and such complex instruments should be made of pure nickel. Otherwise, it is impossible to keep them from rusting. If nickel plated, they must be sterilized like the cystoscope, page 51. Woven instruments. It is the accepted tradition that woven instruments cannot be boiled, and it is current practice to sterilize them by formalin vapor. But I have for several years been boiling all my woven instruments, and can assert that they stand boiling perfectly well if they are of standard French manufacture, any one of half a dozen firms, and if their sterilization is surrounded with a few simple precautions. When a woven instrument is boiled, its varnish becomes utterly soft and therefore cracks if any other instrument rests upon it or if it is bent before it has cooled. Therefore, it must lie perfectly straight in the sterilizer, touching neither the sides nor the ends of this, and with no other instrument resting upon it. More important still, after the instrument has been boiled, it must not be touched until it has been cooled off, either by lifting it from the water on an automatic platform or by pouring in cold, sterilized water.